She holds the absolute, watertight legal right to wear a glittering crown and demand the title of Royal Highness, yet she actively spits on the velvet cushion of her birthright to embrace the mud, sweat, and brutal discipline of military boots. We stand at a definitive historical juncture in the year 2026. Lady Louise Windsor, now 22 years old, and having officially graduated from the University of St. Andrews, has stepped out from the sheltering shadow of her family to face the full weight of her own destiny. While generations of royal heirs before her viewed titles and aristocratic lineages as an automatic springboard to a life of cushioned luxury and effortless privilege, Louise's trajectory tells an entirely different story. She holds a legally guaranteed, watertight ticket to the prestigious status of a princess with the styling of a royal highness. Yet, she has chosen to deliberately bypass that glittering birthright, setting it aside to embrace a path of raw grit and grueling discipline, the British Armed Forces. This is her silent yet deafening manifesto, a conscious, unyielding decision to trade the safety of silk and velvet for the mud, sweat, and ultimate accountability of wearing the uniform, positioning herself to become the first female member of the British royal family to actively serve in the military since her legendary grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. Before diving into the details, remember to subscribe to the Kingdom of Miss channel so you don't miss any updates on this story. To understand the core substance of this monumental choice, we must look directly at the hard-hitting journalistic revelations recently brought to light by Sky News and The Sunday. These reports cut straight through the glossy veneer of palace PR to expose an authentic, fiercely independent personal ambition that starkly contrasts with the standard royal playbook. According to exclusive insights leaked from inner circles to The Sun, Louise has openly expressed a deep, burning desire to forge a genuine career within the military, driven by a profound personal mission to serve the king and country. This is not a superficial vanity project, nor is it an empty ceremonial gesture. It bears no resemblance to the way senior royals traditionally accumulate honorary colonelcies and decorative military titles later in life purely for show. Louise's commitment is rooted in active, boots-on-the-ground execution. The physical footprint of her dedication is clearly visible in her active participation within the University of St. Andrews Officer Training Corps. Rather than spending her university years secluded in ivory towers or attending exclusive high society galas, she chose to subject herself to the rigorous demands of tactical leadership exercises, high-pressure navigation drills, and demanding field training. The tangible reality of this commitment was put on full public display when she marched in full combat camouflage gear during solemn regimental remembrance parades through the town. Observers noted her unwavering focus, her absolute professional composure, and her refusal to break formation under any circumstance. This is the behavior of a soldier forged in discipline, not a pampered aristocrat playing dress-up for the cameras. This fierce independence is further mirrored in her professional blueprint, as revealed by her digital footprint. Her LinkedIn profile strips away all royal pretense, explicitly outlining her genuine career interests in military service, diplomacy, or law. By broadcasting these specific aspirations, Louise has systematically discarded the traditional, effortless pathways historically carved out for minor royals, such as drifting through life via ribbon-cutting charity events, patronage appearances, and leisurely social calendars. Instead, she has opted for disciplines that demand rigorous higher education, sharp legal or geopolitical intellect, and life-or-death operational accountability. She is opting for arenas where a royal bloodline grants zero immunity against failure, proving that her ambitions lie in fields where she must survive and excel purely on individual merit. Most striking of all is how she handles her legal title amidst this intense professional preparation. As Sky News repeatedly emphasizes, despite holding the absolute legal right to be addressed as Princess Louise with an HRH styling, she firmly and consistently insists on operating solely as Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor. This is a calculated strategic choice, laden with profound psychological and social weight. By divorcing her military and academic pursuits from her royal status, she is proactively shielding her achievements from public cynicism. She refuses to allow her hard-earned accomplishments to be tainted by the whispering suspicion that she is advancing merely because of who her grandfather or uncle happens to be. She does not want a royal title to buy her respect in the barracks or the lecture hall. She is demanding of herself that every ounce of authority and capability she possesses must be earned with her own hands, sweat, and unyielding resolve. The profound ambition driving Lady Louise to step onto the parade grounds and into the officer training corps is not an isolated whim born in a vacuum. It is the powerful activation of a dormant genetic and historical lineage. To fully grasp the magnitude of her choice, one must examine the extraordinary web of military service that defines the bedrock of the Windsor family. Throughout the modern history of the British monarchy, the uniform has often served as the ultimate test of character, a crucible through which heirs and spares alike must pass to prove their worth to the nation. Yet, within this heavily masculine tradition of service, female royals have historically been relegated to the sidelines, draped in honorary patronages rather than active combat gear. Louise is poised to shatter that glass ceiling, resurrecting a legacy that has remained dormant for more than 8 decades. The direct ideological and historical ancestor of Louise's ambition is none other than her legendary grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth II. During the dark days of the Second World War, the then Princess Elizabeth refused to remain safely tucked inside the walls of Windsor Castle while the nation bled. In 1944, she insisted on joining the Territorial Auxiliary Service, where she trained diligently as a mechanic and military truck driver. She rolled up her sleeves, got her hands covered in engine grease, and learned to maintain heavy military vehicles under the constant threat of enemy bombardment. For the rest of her life, the late monarch spoke of her time in uniform with immense pride, viewing it as the most formative and grounding experience of her youth. By choosing to embrace the military, Louise is directly echoing that fierce, independent spirit, closing a generational loop by becoming the first female royal to actively tread the path of the soldier since her grandmother laid down her tools at the end of the global conflict. This military pedigree is equally vibrant across the immediate male line of her family, creating an environment where service to the crown and the armed forces are treated as one and the same. Her father, Prince Edward, famously spent 3 rigorous years training within the Royal Marines as a university cadet before charting his own course toward theatrical production. Although he ultimately chose a life in the arts rather than a permanent career on the battlefield, those formative years instilled in him a deep respect for military discipline and physical endurance. That exact brand of quiet, uncomplaining tenacity has seemingly been passed down directly to his daughter, manifesting not as a brief university phase, but as a burning vocation. Looking further across the wider network of the royal family, the uniform is a ubiquitous symbol of duty. Her uncle, King Charles III, who now serves as the commander-in-chief and absolute head of the British Armed Forces, spent years actively serving in both the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy during the 1970s. He learned to pilot aircraft, command warships, and navigate the treacherous geopolitical waters of the Cold War era. Similarly, her older cousins have worn the King's uniform on active duty, with Prince William serving as an RAF search and rescue helicopter pilot, and Prince William's brother completing high-risk operational tours on the front lines in Afghanistan. Military service is practically woven into the DNA of the Windsor men, acting as the primary rite of passage into adulthood and public responsibility. However, for the princes of her family, entering the armed forces was heavily shaped by institutional expectation, historical precedent, and the implicit pressure of their positions in the direct line of succession. For Louise, there is no such constitutional compulsion. As a minor royal operating well outside the immediate line of succession, she faces zero pressure from the palace to put on a uniform. Her decision to march through the mud, handle weapons, and subject herself to the punishing demands of military training is entirely self-driven. She is volunteering for hardship purely out of personal conviction and a genuine desire to serve. This unwavering dedication takes on an even more fascinating layer when connected to her father's choice of branch. While Prince Edward trained with the Royal Marines, Louise's immersion in military training through the University Corps points toward an intensely physical, uncompromising standard of operational readiness. The Royal Marines and the broader combat arms of the British military are legendary for their brutal selection processes, where social status, aristocratic bloodlines, and royal titles count for precisely nothing. In the field, under the heavy downpour of a Scottish moor, during tactical exercises, everyone looks the same in camouflage, and everyone bleeds the same sweat. By deliberately stepping into this hyper-masculine, fiercely meritocratic arena, Louise is offering a masterclass in modern royal rehabilitation. While other branches of the family have occasionally stumbled under the weight of entitlement, scandal, or public friction, the Edinburgh household has steadily built a reputation for quiet excellence, discretion, and relentless hard work. Louise is taking that familial ethos and supercharging it with the ultimate stamp of national validation. She is not merely inheriting a position of respect, she is forging it out of iron and discipline. When she stands in formation, shoulder to shoulder with commoners and fellow students, she is stripping away every single layer of royal artifice, proving that her loyalty to the king and country is backed by the hard currency of personal sacrifice rather than the soft luxury of a birthright. To fully comprehend the extraordinary nature of Lady Louise choosing a path deeply aligned with military service, one must analyze the unforgiving ecosystem she is stepping into. The British Armed Forces, particularly elite branches such as the Royal Marines and frontline combat units, operate entirely outside the sycophantic bubble of palace life. In these environments, aristocratic pedigrees, royal bloodlines, and uncashed birthrights hold zero currency. When a recruit steps onto the training grounds of a military establishment, the institutional hierarchy of the crown is completely suspended. Mud does not care about a royal coat of arms, and physical exhaustion does not grant immunity to those carrying the weight of a historic surname. By choosing to immerse herself in this brutal theater of discipline, Louise is willingly submitting to the ultimate meritocratic equalizer. Historically, when members of the royal family have interacted with the military, it has frequently been wrapped in the comfortable padding of honorary appointments. Senior royals are routinely handed prestigious titles such as colonel-in-chief or admiral, allowing them to inspect troops, wear heavily decorated uniforms on ceremonial balconies, and pose for official photographs without ever having to endure the soul-crushing reality of basic combat training. Even when princes historically served on active duty, their deployments were heavily insulated by security protocols designed to protect them from the gravest dangers, shielding them from the full, unvarnished terror of frontline warfare. Louise is charting a path that aggressively rejects this superficial brand of military association. Her time within the University Officer Training Corps and her immersion in tactical field exercises indicate a desire for authentic operational readiness, demanding physical endurance, and genuine professional competence. The psychological weight of this decision reveals a profound desire for self-validation. For a young woman growing up under the intense global microscope of the House of Windsor, every action is subject to microscopic scrutiny by tabloids and royal commentators. Choosing to enter a military training environment means stripping away every single layer of external protection. There are no royal bodyguards carrying her heavy rucksack during a grueling 10-mile tactical march across the Scottish Highlands. There is no special treatment when navigating the freezing rain, sleep deprivation, and relentless psychological pressure imposed by commanding officers who judge performance solely on grit, tactical awareness, and teamwork. By voluntarily placing herself in a position where she can fail based entirely on her own merits, Louise is executing a masterclass in personal integrity. She is actively dismantling any potential public narrative that might suggest she is merely a decorative figure skating through life on the coattails of her famous family. Furthermore, this ruthless pursuit of hardship serves as a stark corrective to the modern vulnerabilities plaguing the institution she represents. Over the past decade, the broader royal family has faced severe public backlash concerning entitlement, financial transparency, and detachment from the economic realities faced by ordinary citizens. Scandals involving other branches of the family have repeatedly reminded the public that holding a royal title does not inherently make an individual honorable or hardworking. In stark contrast, the Edinburgh household has carefully cultivated an image of quiet dignity, discretion, and relentless graft. By throwing herself into the demanding world of military service, Louise is taking that familial reputation and supercharging it with undeniable national service. She is signaling to the British public that true nobility is not inherited through a 17th century legal document, but is instead forged through personal sacrifice, sweat, and an unwavering commitment to the nation. This rigorous mindset also directly addresses the unique psychological burden carried by minor royals who find themselves stranded in the strange middle ground between absolute royalty and everyday citizenship. They possess famous names that instantly draw public attention, yet they receive none of the constitutional power or financial allowances granted to direct heirs to the throne. Many individuals caught in this peculiar demographic struggle to find a meaningful identity, often drifting into superficial celebrity culture or meaningless philanthropic positions designed merely to fill their schedules. Louise has utterly rejected that hollow trap. By choosing a path defined by rigorous discipline, physical hardship, and strict institutional accountability, she has carved out a distinct purpose that requires no royal title to validate its worth. She is demonstrating that a modern royal can be defined not by the privileges they claim, but by the burdens they voluntarily choose to carry on their own shoulders. The transition from a quiet university student studying English literature to a disciplined military officer in training represents a profound psychological evolution. It requires a shedding of personal comfort and an embrace of collective hardship, where personal ego is systematically broken down and rebuilt as part of a cohesive military unit. In the muddy trenches of tactical exercises, standing shoulder to shoulder with ordinary university students and career soldiers, Louise is learning the true meaning of leadership through obedience and shared struggle. She is proving that the royal blood running through her veins is secondary to the personal discipline beating within her heart. This unwavering dedication to a higher, more demanding standard sets a revolutionary benchmark for the younger generation of the British monarchy, proving that respect must be earned through hard work and personal sacrifice rather than simply demanded by virtue of an ancient crown. While Lady Louise is forging her own path through rigorous military discipline and personal independence, the institution of the British monarchy itself is navigating a profound structural crisis that makes her quiet competence more valuable than ever. To understand why her trajectory matters on a geopolitical scale, one must examine the precarious reality facing the crown under the reign of King Charles III. For years, critics and taxpayers have targeted the sheer size and financial cost of the royal family, arguing that an oversized institution, laden with minor royals performing low-impact duties, was no longer sustainable or justifiable in a modern economy. In response to this mounting public pressure, the king launched a deliberate strategy to create a slimmed-down monarchy. The core philosophy was simple: a smaller, more focused group of working royals handling official duties would reduce costs, eliminate public friction, and present a cleaner, more efficient image of the crown to the world. However, the theoretical elegance of a slimmed-down monarchy has collided violently with the unforgiving realities of human biology and political attrition. On paper, cutting the roster of working royals sounds like a brilliant administrative fix. In practice, it has created a severe staffing deficit that borders on operational collapse. Consider the personnel roster currently tasked with carrying out thousands of public engagements, charitable patronages, and diplomatic duties every single year. The active lineup is alarmingly thin. At the very top stand King Charles III and Queen Camilla. Beside them are the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, followed by the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Prince Edward and Sophie. Beyond that core group, the bench of active working royals drops off precipitously. The remaining figures are advanced in age, carrying a workload that would exhaust individuals half their years. Princess Anne, widely regarded as the hardest working member of the family, is well past her mid-70s. The Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, along with the Duke of Kent, are all operating well into their 80s. Yet they continue to maintain grueling public schedules simply because there is no one else available to take their places. The rest of the extended family has been entirely sidelined or removed from active duty. Prince Andrew was permanently stripped of his royal duties and public patronages following a devastating series of scandals and legal controversies that permanently severed his ties to official institutional life. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle chose to step down entirely from their working roles, relocating across the Atlantic and cutting ties with the daily operational responsibilities of the crown. This already depleted human resource pool suffered catastrophic blows when severe health crises struck the highest levels of leadership simultaneously. King Charles III was diagnosed with cancer, forcing him to scale back certain public appearances and undergo intense medical treatments while maintaining his constitutional duties as sovereign. Simultaneously, the Princess of Wales underwent a deeply challenging medical journey involving her own cancer treatment, pulling her away from public life for extended periods to focus on recovery and family. This double blow laid bare the extreme vulnerability of a monarchy operating with a skeleton crew. The aging veterans of the family simply cannot maintain this unsustainable pace forever, and the thousands of charitable organizations, hospitals, and military regiments that relied on royal patronage for decades found themselves facing the very real threat of losing their institutional connections. This is precisely where the quiet evolution of Lady Louise Windsor transforms from a personal coming-of-age story into a matter of vital institutional necessity. While she spent her formative years deliberately shielded from the suffocating spotlight of senior royal duties, the sheer weight of circumstance is quietly pulling her toward the center of national attention. Royal commentators and constitutional experts have increasingly pointed to the Edinburgh household as the secret weapon of the House of Windsor. Prince Edward and Sophie have quietly built an impenetrable reputation for absolute discretion, unwavering loyalty, zero drama, and relentless, unglamorous hard work. They have proven that a royal can support the crown effectively without generating sensationalist tabloid headlines or demanding excessive public expenditure. Louise has inherited every single one of those sterling qualities, supercharging them with the hard-edged discipline of military training and academic achievement. She is not seeking out the limelight, nor is she demanding a prominent role on the central stage of the monarchy. Yet, as the institution struggles to fulfill its immense obligations with a fraction of its former staff, the demand for competent, scandal-free, and deeply dedicated young royals has never been more urgent. When future monarchs look around for reliable family members to help carry the heavy administrative and public burdens of the crown, individuals of Louise's caliber will be in desperate demand. Her commitment to service, whether expressed through military uniform or official representation, offers a steady anchor for a monarchy desperately fighting to maintain its relevance and stability in a rapidly changing world. With the completion of her degree at the University of St. Andrews behind her, Lady Louise Windsor stands squarely at the most defining crossroad of her young adult life. The sheltered chapters of university routines, lecture halls, and localized tactical exercises have officially drawn to a close, leaving her face to face with the stark reality of the professional world. Unlike many of her peers, who step out of higher education simply to enter the corporate rat race or pursue leisurely postgraduate travels, Louise carries the invisible gravity of a historic surname and a uniquely complex public expectation. Every step she takes from this moment forward will be scrutinized by royal watchers, media commentators, and the British public, all of whom are eagerly waiting to see how she will choose to deploy the fierce independence and disciplined work ethic she has so carefully cultivated over the past few years. The path before her branches out into several distinct directions, each carrying profound implications for her future and for the institution of the monarchy itself. The most immediate and widely anticipated trajectory involves taking her extensive training within the University Officer Training Corps and transforming it into a full-scale professional military career. Should she choose to formally commission into the British Armed Forces, perhaps by pursuing advanced officer training at the prestigious Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, she would shatter a glass ceiling that has remained unbroken for more than 80 years. Becoming an active service officer would place her directly in the footsteps of her legendary grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, who famously donned the uniform of the Territorial Auxiliary Service during the dark days of the Second World War. This choice would not only cement her personal legacy of sacrifice and hard work, but it would also inject a profound sense of modern, hands-on patriotism into a royal family desperately in need of authentic connections with the younger generations of citizens. Alternatively, her professional blueprint opens doors far beyond the parade grounds and combat boots of the military. Her digital footprint and academic background point toward a deep intellectual curiosity, with a formal degree in English literature, serving as a solid foundation for careers demanding sharp analytical thinking, precise communication, and strategic problem-solving. Her past expressed interests in diplomacy and law reveal a young woman who is drawn to intellectual rigor and structural responsibility, rather than superficial celebrity culture. Whether she chooses to apply her intellect within the diplomatic corps, international relations, or legal advocacy, she has made it abundantly clear that she intends to earn her living through genuine merit and intellectual capability. She is not a person who will sit idly by waiting for a royal allowance to dictate her lifestyle, nor is she willing to let a dormant title act as a substitute for a real, demanding career. At the same time, the gravitational pull of the crown cannot be completely ignored, especially given the severe staffing shortages currently plaguing the working royal family. As King Charles III continues to steer a slimmed-down monarchy through an era defined by a depleted roster of active senior members, The institutional need for trusted, scandal-free relatives to step up and share the burden of public representation grows more acute by the day. While Louise has spent her entire life shielded from the crushing spotlight of daily royal engagements, her parents, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, have quietly demonstrated how a modern royal can serve with absolute dignity, relentless efficiency, and zero drama. If Louise eventually decides to integrate official royal duties into her professional life, she would do so not as an entitled aristocrat demanding applause, but as a seasoned, disciplined professional capable of commanding genuine respect. This potential blending of military service, professional independence, and royal representation represents an entirely new archetype for the modern British monarchy. She does not need to choose between being a dedicated public servant for the crown and being an independent individual with a real career in the civil or military sphere. She has already proven that she can navigate both worlds with remarkable poise, moving seamlessly from the muddy trenches of tactical field exercises to the intellectual rigor of university seminars. As she steps across the threshold of her post-graduation life, Louise holds the ultimate power of choice. Whether she marches onto a military base as a commissioned officer, steps into a courtroom as a legal professional, or quietly takes on royal patronages to support her aging family members, her decisions will be defined entirely by her own agency, hard work, and unyielding personal integrity. As Lady Louise Windsor steps forward into the vast landscape of her adult life, the true significance of her story transcends the technical debates surrounding ancient royal decrees or the dormant potential of an unclipped title. The most compelling aspect of her entire journey is not the legal right to be called a princess, but rather the profound philosophy embodied by her decision to leave that title untouched. In a world where individuals born into immense privilege often spend their lives demanding deference and capitalizing on inherited status, Louise has chosen the path of radical self-determination. She has demonstrated that true nobility does not derive from a historic piece of parchment issued by a sovereign, but from the sweat, discipline, and uncompromising accountability and individual demands of themselves. Her parents provided the initial architectural framework by stepping back from the glittering machinery of the court, wrapping her childhood in a protective shield of normalcy, and instilling the foundational belief that she would need to earn her own living in the real world. From working quietly at a local garden center and mastering the intricate sport of carriage driving alongside her grandfather, to immersing herself in the rigorous intellectual environment of university literature and the brutal physical reality of military training, every single choice she has made points toward a singular truth. She refuses to let a royal title define the boundaries of her capability or serve as a cheap substitute for genuine achievement. She is forging a distinct identity built entirely upon personal merit, quiet resilience, and an unwavering commitment to duty. This deliberate rejection of easy privilege carries an immense historical resonance as the British monarchy navigates one of the most delicate and transformative eras in its modern existence. Under the lean operational model, necessitated by institutional downsizing and the relentless pressures of public scrutiny, the crown finds itself starved of reliable, hard-working figures capable of sustaining its ancient traditions while remaining relevant to contemporary society. Yet, Louise has never positioned herself as a desperate savior rushing in to rescue a faltering institution. Instead, her potential readiness to serve, whether through the demanding crucible of military service or through quiet, steadfast public representation, feels entirely organic. It is an offer of service born from genuine patriotism and disciplined character rather than a sense of constitutional entitlement. Should she choose to commission as an active service officer in the armed forces, she will step across a historic threshold that has remained untouched by any female member of the royal family for nearly a century. That monumental achievement would forever alter how the public perceives her generation of royals, bridging the gap between the legendary wartime service of her grandmother and the hyper-modern demands of a complex 21st century world. Even if her trajectory eventually pulls her toward diplomacy, law, or entirely different professional arenas, the foundational discipline she has acquired along the way will remain an unshakable asset. She possesses the rare and valuable ability to move between different worlds with absolute grace, commanding the respect of commoners, scholars, and soldiers alike without ever relying on the crutch of a royal prefix. Ultimately, the narrative of Lady Louise Windsor serves as a powerful reminder of the true meaning of leadership and nobility in the modern age. A crown can be placed upon a head by law, but true authority must be earned through action. by taking the heavy, dormant option of her birthright and deliberately choosing to set it aside while she builds her own strength from the ground up. She has redefined what it means to belong to the House of Windsor. She has proven that the most powerful titles are often the ones we choose not to use, and that the most enduring legacies are those forged not in the gilded halls of palaces, but in the mud, the lecture halls, and the unyielding pursuit of personal excellence. Her journey is only just beginning, but the foundation she has laid ensures that whatever path she ultimately walks, she will do so entirely on her own terms.